Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast to the protection against heavy rain and flooding by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe.
So the big challenge is, how can house owners like you and me get a flood-free home? How can business managers like you and me get a flood-free company? And how can public servants provide flood-free critical infrastructure and livable cities?
Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe. This podcast is for foresighted and proactive people who do not want to shovel the muddy water out of their room while standing in the midst of the disaster.
Therefore, those who design and plan, the architects and engineers, need to construct such buildings and cities, and that even when the entire environment is completely flooded. That is a challenge, and this podcast will give the answers.
Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe.
Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of Flood Protection Secrets. I want to talk about the revealed secrets of a flood protection price for building entrances. And I subtitled it with what the Titanic has to do with flood protection. Yeah, that is a good question because all is about water. And I want to tell you about it. And most probably you know about the Titanic. So let's just summarize what really happened. And then I will talk about the prices for entrance protection from water. But in this case, we have to protect the Titanic first from the ingress of water. And the story of the RMS Titanic is one of the most fatal tragedies in maritime history. And the Titanic was, I think most of us know that, the largest ship afloat at the time of her maiden voyage from Southampton in the United Kingdom and Great Britain to New York City. And dubbed as unsinkable, Titanic was the epitome of luxury and technological advancement. So that was the top of the top when it came to boats. And on April 10 in 1912, it's more than 100 years ago, Titanic embarked on her maiden voyage and carrying some 2,224 passengers and crew. That is what I was checking, of course, in the dictionary, not in the dictionary, in my library. And despite receiving multiple iceberg warnings, the ship was traveling near maximum speed when it struck an iceberg at 11:40 p.m. So it was almost midnight on April 14 in the North Atlantic. And the collision caused the ship's hull plates to buckle inward along her starboard side and opened 5 of her 16 watertight compartments to the sea. Wow. The design flaws, and most probably you remember the story with Leonardo DiCaprio. And most of us have most probably watched this movie. And I think it was quite close to what really happened. So, but what was the story behind? The design flaws and inadequate emergency preparations, including a lack of lifeboats, contributed to the disaster that unfolded. Just over 2 hours after the collision, Titanic sank in the early morning of April 15, 1912. So more than 1,500 people perished in the icy waters, making it one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. Titanic's story is a solemn reminder of human vulnerability and the critical importance of safety precautions in engineering. Engineering, here it comes. Yes, but what really happened and what is the connection to my 55 entrances and the price for flood protection? No, you see, the captain of the Titanic just followed the the pressure of the business people, of the owner of the Titanic, and to cross the Atlantic as fast as possible. It was all about popularity. It was about the headlines in the news, in the newsletters, and this extra fast crossing of the Atlantic was one of the reasons, because they only followed the speed. The timeline was speed, and speed is not the only important part when it comes to a project. And the crossing of the Atlantic was a project. And if you want to build a building, or you want to protect a building from the danger of floods, of heavy rain and floods, then it is similar. It is a project. And what is important for a project? You can say, okay, we want to finish it as fast as possible. And then remember what happened to the Titanic. It sank because they forgot the other most important for parts of the Pentagon. And I call it, yes, I call it really the Pentagon, because like the Pentagon building in the US, but there's nothing to do with that. It is just geometrical shape. So we have 5 corners, and timeline is 1 corner. And now the question is, which are the other 4 corners? And when it comes to flood protection, and of course every other project as well, you have first of all to check out who are the project team members. And very often when we get inquiries from Asia or from all over the world, but most of the time from Asia, because that is the area where I'm concentrated on then the people immediately want to get the price, and they say, we must finish it until within 5 months. And they immediately ask for a budget price or quotation, what is similar in that context for them. And that is a little bit similar to what happened to the Titanic, as they want to force the project into one direction, and they only think about the price. And at the end, the captain of the Titanic also thought about the price, but not the price, how expensive it is. He was more thinking about the award. That means the popularity at the end of the day. And that is completely wrong. And we always tell these people who ask us, and that was a real inquiry, about 55 entrances for utility units, so for pumping stations, and we were asked to provide a quotation. And then I asked the question to the caller, to the person to the engineer who was on the phone, after having sent an email, what will you do with this price? I have to give it to my boss. And I said, okay, and what will your boss do once you present this price? He will take a decision. I said, okay, based on what? Because you only get the price, and that is a budget estimation, because we don't know anything about the project. That is like you asked, what is the price for a high-rise building, for a skyscraper? We have no idea. Is it 100 million? Is it 200 million? Is it $50 million? So you don't know, because you don't have the technical details, and something is missing. That means all these details are unclear. And how do you discuss these details? You need to, and that is the corner of the Pentagon number 1. That is the collaboration amongst the team members. That is, who are the members involved? Very often you talk about the cost estimator, talk with the cost estimators. You have people from the facility management, maintenance, the procurement, of course, and then the operation as well. So different departments, and quite often they don't work in an integrated team. They work in parallel. Sometimes they even don't know about their colleagues, what they are doing. That happened to us as well. We got inquiries for different numbers of buildings and entrances, and even the protection height was different. So at the end, everybody is confused. And what is the result of everything? you will fail. If you start your cruise like what the Titanic did, you will fail, and you will think you will never reach your target, your goal. So the first thing is definitely the first cornerstone of your Pentagon is collaboration amongst the team members. And number 2 is, once you have clarified how these team members communicate with each other, is it by phone, is it by email? Don't forget, if you talk to people in some countries with blocked WhatsApp, you cannot simply use WhatsApp. So you need to use your mobile phone. What increases dramatically your telecommunication costs, because sometimes a minute is about €2.50, €3 a minute. And now imagine you have long discussions, so that is almost impossible, and companies don't allow that, and that is correct, because there are other ways to do that. So you can think about that and organize the way how you write, how you speak to each other, how do you communicate with each other, what kinds of platforms you use for meetings. Is it Zoom, or is it MS Teams, or is it Google Meet, or whatever? Yeah. So, and once these things are clear, then we come to cornerstone number 2 of the Pentagon, and that is the technology. So which technology do you apply? For a high-rise building, the question would be, okay, first I need to identify how many floors do I want to construct. For a boat, it is how long will it be, for how many passengers, and for flood protection, of course, first, which are the entrances, which are the buildings, then the entrances, the openings, the points of water ingress, and then what is a possible technology to protect these entrances. I said in this case 55 entrances. Yeah, so there are different, you know me from other episodes in this podcast, there are these 4 groups of flood barriers, the portable flood barriers, flood doors, flood gates, and group number 3, automatic flood barriers, and group number 4, permanent glass barriers. But that is not all. There is much more what you can apply when it comes to flood protection. Piping, for instance, underground water storage, renaturation of rivers and canals, and dams and dikes. So all these things are also possibilities. Of course, that is not under the responsibility of a company, but is under the responsibility of a government at the end of the day. But it falls under the cornerstone number 2, the technical solution. And cornerstone number 3 of the Pentagon for flood protection is, of course, are the civil works. What kind of civil works come with the barriers? And that is what these people very often forget. And I can only say, come back to the story of the Titanic. What the captain saw was the tip of the iceberg. And then it was already too late, because they were too fast, because they wanted to break the speed record. And it was important that they arrive in time, that the newspaper can still print it in the next edition. So no time to react anymore, because the iceberg was already there. The result, the project Titanic failed completely, it sank. And in our case, you also must know all the civil works, and that are below the tip of the iceberg. And in flood protection, the tip of the iceberg are first the openings, the flood barriers. That is immediately what people are thinking about. Oh yeah, I will put some flood doors, some flood gates, an automatic unarmed flip-up flood barrier, or some in-aero mobile flood barriers around on RSD mount with flood barriers for my garage and for my main door of the building entrance. Yes, but that doesn't tell you anything, because if you don't consider the foundation work, the work at the facade, relocation of electrical cables or water hoses, and other obstacles, your budget will be completely wrong. That means your boss will later accuse you that you were not able to estimate the project in the correct way. You will fail, and perhaps, I don't know, you lose your job, or at least you will not get a promotion. That is for sure, and not to talk about the missing and the bad reputation that you will get. So what is important? Important is that what is below, because that was the tip of the iceberg, is all the foundation. And that is completely true, because imagine you have a flood protection of 2.40 meters. The highest, by the way, was installed from Flood Control Canada, close to Vancouver, Calgary, at the west side of Canada. It was 4 meters, I think 35. So up to 4.50 meters, these demountable flood barriers can be installed. Incredibly high, right? Isn't it? Astonishing? No, it is not astonishing. That is German engineering. But you can imagine what kind of foundation you need, what kind of anchoring system you need. And it can be that the foundation work, so all the concrete for the foundation, similar to a dike. Yeah, the dike must also be stabilized. It's not only a kind of you put some rocks together and put some sand inside and then you say, okay, that's my dike. No, it is not like that. So there is a foundation as well. So everything must be stabilized. And in flood protection for buildings, it is the same thing. And these costs can double, triple, quadruple, or whatever, multiply the estimated costs for the flood barriers. And at this moment, you are completely wrong. If the flood barrier cost is, let me say, 100,000 euro for something, just to mention an amount, you definitely don't get a flood protection for 55 entrances for 100,000 euro, regardless what height it is. So that is almost impossible. But what I mean is, it can be that the total cost of the whole flood protection project for your building is 200,000 euro, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, even 1 million, if it comes out that you choose an automatic flip-up flood barrier or drop-down flood barrier, something what is working with a remote control center or sliding flood barriers or whatever. So that all these things are completely unknown. And with it, the civil works, what I mentioned already. So these civil works, that is cornerstone number 3. And then cornerstone number 4 of this Pentagon for flood protection is a timeline. I mentioned already, this timeline, of course, it depends. How do you work on these 55 entrances? In this particular project, we were discussing about 5 buildings, and then it came out, no, these are 12 buildings, and then suddenly it was 15, and it was 8. So it was not clear at all, because the preparation work was not done in a correct way, in a good way. So that it depends highly on this knowledge, how long it will last. You can imagine if you only start with one project, and very often people are asking, let's do this first project first, let's see whether it will work. Excuse me? You want to wait and you put all other buildings under risk to see whether it will work? It has been proven since 1990, more than 34 years, 1,000 times, more than 65,000, I think in the meantime, 70,000 installations for entrances have been made worldwide with accreditations, awards, and even the world's biggest insurance company for industrial and commercial buildings, FM Global in Boston, USA, has given the certification for it, certification for it. And then people say, let's see whether it will work. Okay, then good luck. I wish you well. That is like you are 4 people in one family and you buy an umbrella, and the father says, okay, I will test it first when the next rain comes, and you will not walk your wife without umbrella and your 2 kids as well without umbrella. You want to test this umbrella. You don't believe what others have done before, then I cannot help you. Sorry, then go somewhere else and good luck with your testing. For all others, you are welcome to stay, of course, and to shorten your timeline, because you can reduce the timeline of experiments from years to perhaps below 1 year, or 1 year for such a project. And that is why it is so important. But don't push everybody to speed up like what the captain for the Titanic has done, and to beat records or something. No, do it in a correct way, because you survived so long without, and you don't know when the next rain will come. Of course, we should do it as fast as possible, but you should contribute as well. With cornerstone number 1, your manpower, that means collaboration. Number 2, the technical description of the project. Number 3 with the civil works description. Number 4 with a timeline. And that will give you the budget at the end of the day that you need. And that is a total complete budget for the whole project. And that is what I can, that is a message. And the captain of the Titanic forgot these things. They were only focusing on speeding up and looking for the headline in the New York Times. So popularity, to get an award of popularity, whatever. And in flood protection, it is similar. Start with the first step. And what is the first step? We call it is not the procurement. We call it the project assessment. And this project assessment comes first, and that will lower the cost for your project. You just have to spend, you invest in the consultation of experts, flood experts. That is normally done when I do that. I'm doing that within 1 week for bigger projects. More or less. And then the things are described very well, and the customer knows who will work on that. That is cornerstone number 1. Collaboration. How do we communicate with each other to avoid any delays? Second, what type of technology might come in? We talk about how many buildings entrances we have to do engineering and assessments and detailed engineerings later on. And that will describe the civil works, and that will have an influence on the timeline and give you a budget at the end of the day. So all these things will be revealed, and it has nothing to do with give me a price for 55 entrances. The height is 2.40 meters or 1.20 meters or 1.50 meters. That doesn't tell you anything. We don't answer to these questions anymore because it's completely useless. These projects never come true because the people who are asking like that don't know how to make such a project. They will never build their boat or never construct their high-rise buildings, their skyscraper, nor will they ever finish a flood protection project that really deserves the word flood protection, because at the end you want to protect your building. You want to have peace of mind for the people who are inside and for the families in a home, in a house, and for the employees in a factory. And of course, you also want to protect everything what is inside for a company, a warehouse, for instance, electrotechnical parts in a warehouse, or CNC machines for production side, or hospital equipment, or X-ray machines at the customs at an airport, or simply the tunnel system of a metro system. So all these things must be planned as well. So that's it. At the end, you need to spend time for 1 week of process assessment to reduce the risk of that you don't see what is below the tip of the iceberg. It is more revealing the rest of the iceberg. And you can do that with the 5 cornerstones of the Pentagon for flood protection, how I call it. And then you do the next step. And perhaps you create your own Titanic, and this Titanic will be your flood protection project. And then at the end of the day, you will finish it within a given time of, let me say, 1 year, when it is a complex, bigger project. I don't talk about one garage or one entrance door. We talked about 55 entrances. So now we'll go for exactly this process assessment. And then you save time, you will save money, and you will get your award, because your superior, your boss, the owner of the company, they will appreciate what you have done, because it will work at the end of the day. The Titanic, your flood protection project, will not sink. And isn't that a good idea? To improve the world a little bit, your environment, your company, your home, and your city, your municipality. If you're ready to take the lead in protection your home from floods, to protect your home, in protecting your home from floods, keep listening and don't hesitate to reach out. Subscribe to the podcast, Flood Protection Secrets, or contact the flood experts in their Asian headquarters in the Philippines, or contact me directly. Just Google Andreas Klippe. Stay safe and flood free, and tune in next time for more flood protection insights. I wish and hope for you that you make the right decisions when it comes to your personal flood protection. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast channel if you haven't already. Now it only remains for me to wish you a good day. Do something with it. Maybe until the next podcast episode. I would be very happy. See you then. As always, stay safe and flood free. Your Andreas Klippe and the whole Flood Experts team.
That's it again with the new episode of Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe, German engineer, book author, and head of the Flood Experts. What can Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe protect for you? Anytime? Worldwide? Contact us or just click through to www.thefloodexperts.de/bonus. Detailed engineering, German quality, safe. Flood protection secrets. The secrets you'll want to unfold.
Don't forget, you're only one flood barrier away.
Subscribe to the season, and you'll never be late for an episode.